Okay. Welcome. If you can all stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilmember Atman.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here. Here.
Councilmember Epperson.
Here.
And Mayor Rattner.
Here.
And we have Councilmember Vice Mayor Rose absent.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Mayor, there's been a request from ACTC to remove the adoption of Resolution 2020-2, the approval of the fiscal year 2018-2019 Amador County Regional Traffic Mitigation Fee Program annual report. They're doing an update to that with the information that we provided recently.
Okay.
We accept the agenda with, after pulling the item number 2 from the regular agenda.
Second.
First and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nobody opposed? Moving on. Presentation announcements. We have Officer of the Year presentation.
Hello. Tonight we're going to give our Officer of the Year award. It's something we've been doing. This is I believe, the 6th year that we've done it. Each year we like to recognize an officer that's kind of gone above and beyond and been an asset to our city. This year, I'm going to actually bring him up, is Michael Damiano. We lied to him, we told him he had to be here, he was in trouble. But Michael's been with us since 15, I think it was in August of 15, in 2015. He came to us as a reserve. He was working as a correctional officer in Amador County, jumped up to Placer County, and then last year in January he came to work for us full time. Immediately he kind of hit the ground running. Statistically, he was one of our highest producing officers, which some of you will like. Here's some of the things. He nearly 600 traffic stops during the year. He's got a kinder heart than, I'm not leaving him alone tonight, he's still recovering. But he issued 113 cites. Oh, there he is. He issued 113 cites. So they kind of became brothers, which makes me a little nervous at times. But to show his officer-initiated activity, just on his own, he went out on over 1,600 officer-initiated activities, which is anything from a consensual contact with a pedestrian to suspicious vehicles, building checks. So tells you that he doesn't sit, he likes to be active. Assisted in several investigations. One of them's ongoing, so I can't talk a lot about it, but between him and Officer Scroy, they have obtained some search warrants and arrested a subject that numerous charges on child crime, which seems to somehow we seem to find our way into those in this small community, which is rather sad. But they both diligently worked on that case, and I think we're going to have some good results from it, some justice served for the victims on that, so I won't go any further. But to see somebody, and I'm not going to pick on him because I am a little bit older than him, usually a lot of times when people are a little more seasoned in life, they will come and they'll hit the ground and they kind of slow down. That has not been Michael's character. He's always active. He's probably the most inquisitive officer we have. Would you agree? Sorry. He wants to know. It's like I got 7 grandchildren. He probably asks more questions, all 7 of them combined, and 2 of them don't even talk yet. So, but anyway, he's, like I said, he's active. He wants to learn, loves to go to school for additional training, and those are the type of people that I think for our city that we appreciate having here with us. So I'm going to present this to Officer Damiano. We created this award. It's named after John Stewart. For those that might not remember, John Stewart was an officer here. Unfortunately, had a battle with cancer. After passing away, I came here. I heard about John and the amount of respect that people had for him. So we named the award the John Stewart Memorial Award. It's Heart of a Lion, And for 2019, we're going to present it to Michael Damiano. It says, "Professionalism, dedication, and service are a true reflection of your commitment to the department and the citizens of Ione. These qualities which you have displayed reflect well upon the members of the Ione Police Department and display the example set before us by Officer Stewart." And well done, Officer Damiano. I will introduce his wife, Lorraine, and his daughter. You guys have to tell me your name.
Rachel.
Rachel. I knew it started with the alphabet somewhere. But anyway, we appreciate Officer Damiano. Tell you how dedicated he is. I just found out, which I probably would have delayed this award, it's his 15th wedding anniversary today. So the chief's a heel. Because of that, I'll have Officer Scroy buy him dinner. But anyway, would you like to say anything?
Very, very much appreciated. Very much a surprise, and it's an honor to be with part of the team of the Ione Police Department, and it's an honor to serve the community of Ione. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Richard?
Yeah.
Hey, Damiano, the audience, good looking people. We're doing an advertisement hair club for men.
Oh, the glare.
That's what filters are for.
Ongoing violations on Hook, we'll be investigating that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations, thank you.
Give everybody a minute to clear out. You're all welcome to stay.
I'll be back.
I have a dinner.
Yes, you may not stay.
Thank you.
Okay, this time I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Lord, before you go, I just want to make sure everybody understands that Sean Cameron is a new attorney with Prentice Long PC out of Reading, and he is here today with me shadowing. He's been assigned to be a backup attorney for the city of Ione, so when you don't see me or Dave, you will likely be seeing Sean.
Nice to meet you, Sean.
Good evening, Council. I did a little brainstorming over the course of this week, and I just brought a few things I'd like to just kind of plant some seeds. I'm sure they can go other places as well, but I just wanted to kind of bring these back to the forefront. And there are questions, but I know that you can't really answer them. Just some things that we kind of need to, I'm curious about, and I will speak to John and other people privately. There's tons of slash down there on the south end of the park, in Howard Park. I did speak to the city fire chief about that, and because I pushed at them, they went ahead out there and they did a bunch of burning, but there is a ton of slash still down there where they did all the limbing and such. And it just is, I'm just curious if there's a plan for that. Again, I know you don't have an answer. It occurs to me that happen to know, because I have spoken to John, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting, waiting for projects in the parks mitigation funds. So my curiosity is just what's the plans for all of that? Because I did learn through a conversation with John that, wildflowers mitigation, which is well over $200,000, should stay there. Castle Oaks, money should stay there. The stuff that's over by Marlette, that can go towards Marlette Park, hopefully, but we got a lot of money sitting in the bank, and I just wondered if there's any plans for that. And kind of along that line, I know that Wildflower is going to continue to build, and Riverland is looking to option more land. So within that, is there an opportunity to amend developer agreements so that they actually build a park, but dollar for dollar, not that bro deal like the last time?
I don't believe you can go back and amend development agreements.
Even when they're going to a new section of property?
It's still, I'll let John.
I just wondered if it can be built other ways, but yeah.
It's still the same development.
It's covered, like for Castle Oaks, it covers villages 1 through 10. So getting the developer to change is probably not going to happen.
Okay, well, that's fine. I mean, again, the money's there.
Right.
I'm just looking forward to find out how we can get it used sooner than, 10 years from now. Then another thought I had was about the Ione general plan. It occurs to me because I have had 2 people talk to me about they would love to come live in Ione, but they can't afford to live here because the housing prices have gotten so much. And doesn't a general plan call for lower income housing of some sort? So I just thought maybe in the future somebody could kind of update us on where that is. You know, the cheapest house here goes for $360,000. And I mean, unless get lucky and find an older home. I could not buy my home now. So it's just, you know, people would like to come here, but they can't. They can't afford to get here, even selling their own house. It's a particular lady from Valley Springs. So again, just wondering about that. And they've been asking about senior living. And so part of that goes to the front end of Castle Oaks. And I'm now on a tear to find out how Ione can make more money. And one of that is economic development. And you know, maybe we can push on developers or something to, you know, start making some economic development happen here. And senior housing might be one. If there's senior housing, then maybe something would go in across the street, Starbucks, hotel, etc. And lastly, about 18 months ago, John brought up something that I thought would be a really good idea, because it doesn't cost anybody a fortune, but we will have money, and that's a stormwater utility fee. So this is me asking you to put that at the front of your priority list, because it's an ongoing issue, and this way we could bank some money towards that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Not seeing any. I'll go ahead and close public comment. Oh, sorry. Come on up.
Sorry, I just walked back in. My name is Joaquin Kelly from Hooked in Ione, or Jay. I go by either names. We were talking at the IBCA meeting the other week, and one of the issues that's been brought up by some of the business associations, not the business associations, excuse me, some of the businesses rather, is the cost of signage for a business. The signage and permit fees are rather large, and it kind of came back to the issue of we use an outside source for the city to, you know, kind of like a subcontractor for that. I don't know necessarily the exact name of what you guys would call it.
Planner,
What's that?
the city planner.
City planner. So, but they are contracted, they're not. So I think what it came down to was the question is, can those fees be changed a little bit to help some small businesses out? Because small businesses are going to be a good source for the city. And Ione is kind of known for not keeping a whole lot of businesses around for very long downtown. And we want to change that. But we need kind of the city's help on some of those things. The fees for signage was, you know, I know we were quoted $800 just for a permit to hang a sign, and quite frankly, I think that's kind of ridiculous. When we have an outside source that has no vested interest in this city dictating those fees, rather it be through the planning commission or what have you, there's really no leeway in those things. So I don't know about you, but I plan on keeping my business here. I live here. My kids go to school here. I am vested in the city, and I want to see that the city's vested in their businesses. And if you guys could maybe show some leeway in those practices. I know it says, you know, in the planning, you know, we talk to somebody about a sign, they go, no, on my paper, this is the fee and this is what we need to charge you. Well, guess what? That's not written on the tablets. Moses didn't come off the mountain with those fees. So if we could have a little bit leeway on some of those, or at least the thought of it, help us out. And that's what I'm here to ask for.
Thank you. Seems a little high
And yeah,
for a permit.
certainly does.
Is that really what it is? Not 80? 800? Yeah, that,
It's, it's the cost of the city planner, it's a building permit you have to get.
right.
And inspection fees, pretty high.
So if we want to look at that going forward, we could take that to the planning commission, or is there a way to appeal that?
Well, we can re-examine our fees, and again, I mean, that council sets fees.
Sure. I mean,
Sorry, having a little sidebar. Any other further public comment? I'll go ahead and close public comment. We'll move on to the consent calendar. There is none?
there is.
Oh, I'm sorry. It says none, but there is. We're going to have the approval of minutes.
Move we accept the consent calendar.
First and second. All those in favor?
Public comment.
Do I have to take, public comment, sorry. Public comment on the consent calendar? Seeing none, we'll look for a motion to approve the consent calendar. First and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? Public hearing, we have none. To the regular agenda, we are dropping item number 2, moving down to item number 3. Adoption of resolution number 2020-01, expressing support for the self-help sales and/or use tax for streets, roads, maintenance, and repair.
Yes, Madam Mayor, Council, what you have before you is a resolution to support the concept of a self-help sales tax for street and road maintenance and repair. As you recall, and I've been given reports and updates, I've been a part of the self-help committee for the city for the past couple of months in terms of exploring whether or not to move forward to ask the County Board of Supervisors to place a ballot measure on the November agenda to create a half-a-cent sales tax for gas for streets and road improvements and repairs. The system would kind of mimic the Measure M in terms of the amount of revenue anticipated to be received from a half-a-cent sales tax. It's about $3 million. And during the course of our time as a committee, we have looked at our streets in terms of the quality and looked at, you know, how we come up with a equitable split of any proceeds should a measure move forward on the county board of supervisors, and if the citizens of Amador County pass a ballot measure. And so what you have here, and you have a copy of a revised Our Roads, Our Responsibility white paper that was put out, that kind of lays out all the communities in terms of what they need to kind of maintain their roads at a current PCI level, pavement condition index level. You know, currently the city of Ione, our pavement ranking is about on average of 58, which is low, and we estimate that we would need approximately $650,000 a year to be able to maintain a CPI of about 70. And with the monies that we receive from the state, which is a little over $304,000, we still have a shortfall of about $345,000. So again, as we look at some sort of a rationale to say is, okay, if something actually passes and there's revenue to be split amongst the county and the communities, on page 3 of 3, we kind of lay out a apportionment based upon population, and based upon the information that's provided, the city of Ione would anticipate receiving about $365,186 per year. The proposal that's being discussed has a 10-year sunset clause, meaning that if it's to continue, it would have to go back to the voters after 10 years. So again, this is one of those concepts, ideas that the county and the communities have talked about in terms of getting something on the November ballot. From staff standpoint, once a resolution is adopted or not adopted, or the county decides to move forward with this, staff needs to step out. And the reason being is the next step would be in terms of marketing, developing some sort of political action committee to move this forward, and staff cannot participate in that. So there'll be probably the committee looking at somebody from council to be a part of that effort. Again, what this resolution basically is expressing support for the concept of the self-help. Again, this would need to go before the County Board of Supervisors, and the County Board would need to decide to put this on the ballot. They may choose not to, and if it does go on the ballot, it would be up to the voters to decide whether or not they wish to move it forward. Any questions?
Here, I got a couple. It's a 2/3 majority, isn't it, to pass the tax measure?
Yes, it
Because
is a,
This is
correct.
restricted funds.
Correct, so it is a 2/3.
So, I mean, I've been to one of these meetings, and I think the people there, including yourself, have done a really good job. My problem is, as I said when SB1 came around, is that we've had Prop 1B, $20 billion in 2006, going to fix all our roads. Okay, then 10 years later we get, in 17, 11 years later we get SB1, that's $52 billion, and it's going to fix all our roads. And now we got, and at the time I said I would support something like a sales tax measure where you could contain the money to your jurisdiction. SB1, right from the get-go, 75% of it was going to the state or out of local hands. So the good thing about sales tax is that it will be we can use in the city of Ione. The other thing with SB1 was the VLF money. The VLF money, which was the killer. I mean, for me, it's about $50 to $175 a vehicle, and I have 6 or 7 vehicles because I like motorcycles. And so that was like a $500 a year. I remember having a discussion with the mayor because she was traveling a lot. So it wasn't just the 13 cents sales tax, gas tax, it was also the VLF money. So I have a problem with going after the taxpayer to fix a problem that likely will never get fixed. We'll be back here in 5 years or 10 years and we'll be doing another bond or another tax measure and so on and so forth. Having said that, for me to kill it at this point, I do appreciate the work that everyone's done from all the other cities. If I kill it here, or it's not up to me, but if we kill it here and it never goes forward, then the public are never going to get to decide. And I think something like this, everybody out there needs to decide on this one. I don't know if I support it, but I definitely don't want to, not let the taxpayer get a chance to weigh in. So those are my comments. Oh, one final thing is, like, this is just a very preliminary thing. I would absolutely want, there are restrictions on it, that's good, but one of the things I don't like, I'm on the ACTC, is that we seem to spend a lot of money on state highways. And yes, if you want to get to Jackson, you're going to drive on 88. So that sometimes is, can't avoid it. But I wouldn't want this to prohibit, it would only be local roads. So not if this does pass, that you could not spend it on, 124, 104, 88, 49, and all the things that go through. So that would be a big thing for me to give this continued support, would be to make sure that it could only be spent on county roads, and city roads. That's my 2 cents.
A couple things. One is who's going to pay for it to be on the ballot? I assume, is that we're all going to chip in for that? There's some cost attached.
Yeah, there's going to be a cost in terms of like even the political action committee to put together educational pieces. I would definitely expect that the committee would come back to each municipality for funds to assist in that effort.
And would our road fund be eligible to pay for that? Would it come out of the general fund, or?
I'd have to look that one up. I don't think the road fund could be eligible for that. But I'll have to double check that.
Yeah.
I mean, is it, and then, have you talked about, the audit procedure or how the funds will be administered? Because there'll be some costs associated with the administrative funds.
Absolutely no, we haven't got to that particular point yet. Again, right now where we're at is, are the communities willing to support the concept of, asking the voters for this? Again, in terms of starting to get into those details that you're asking, I kind of need to step away from that, so.
I mean, I know that every time you collect revenue, like we have a revenue for one of our permit fees as a pass-through, but it's gonna cost us time and labor, and we're not getting it recovered. That's my only concern in that area. I'm along the lines of Dominic. I mean, I think the voters should have a chance to decide. I trust them as much as anyone. I know that, I mean, if we're gonna do this, 10 years seems like an awful long window. I mean, like I say, SBM one was supposed to save us all of our roads, and now we're back to helping out, God knows what groups are supposed to help out. It's supposed to be for our roads, and it clearly has identified that it was sold to us that way, it was forced down us. So we're gonna do all these great things, and now here we are, collecting all this money, and we're getting a pinch, but, I mean, just like last time, we had a bunch of roads to fix in town by a deadline so that they could say, hey, we're doing this great work for you now, we wanna do some more for you, and, I mean, here we are. I mean, I won't stop it, if it gets much farther, we really need to have some audit procedures in place and a bunch of other things to make sure it stays right where it's supposed to be.
And like I said, that is the next phase in terms of the discussions.
Thank you. Okay, that's all I have.
Yeah, I was in on this in the ground floor, and then they kept meeting at times when I couldn't go, so I asked John if he would get involved and do that. But I'm very familiar with this. I'm really, I like the concept, and the concept is attractive to me because of SB1. All that, I knew the state wasn't going to give us back whatever we put in. But here we have local control, and it's staying here, and we know we have more control over it. So I like that idea. It looks, John, it looks as though they've settled on the population base.
Yes.
So there's no, I'm sure that, I mean, this is just we're asking if we are approving the concept at this point. But I know they were talking about miles of road there for a while.
And we have gone round and round in terms of looking at that and looking at roads and population and when you lay things out in terms of the numbers, the population is pretty much similar to the percentages of roads in terms of the communities, in terms of the county. The one thing from my standpoint in terms of the population that I kind of like is that Ione is a growing community. We're building homes. And again, that's one of the conversation pieces that we had. If we're looking at population, that population needs to be adjusted every year.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, how often that would be done.
It would be adjusted every year. We'd be using the Department of Revenue's population projections, again, minus the prison population.
Because I mean, when the 2020 census is coming out, we'll know exactly when we should.
2020 census is starting the process, but we probably may not see numbers until 2021.
Is that, I mean, will it think that's going to be in the ballot before then? I mean,
It's expected, if it moves forward, it's expected to be November of 2020.
Okay. All right. I mean,
Anyway, I like the concept. Like I say, I've been in on quite a few of the discussions, and I know, everybody's trying to get as many dollars out of this as they can. I don't blame them for that, but I think the population base is the way to go, and if we can, make corrections every year, that's even better. So, I like the idea.
I am with Dominic. SB1 was the bane of my existence, quite frankly. It took my commute from reasonable to very, very expensive. That being said, we don't have any control over that. Now, these dollars we would have some control over, and one of the things that I would want to see in here is that, in fact, the municipalities have control over it. I don't want this to turn into a supervisor managed program. I don't want the supervisors being in charge, the board of supervisors being in charge of who divvies out and how the money is allocated. It's our tax dollars, I want us to have that say.
And some of the conversation was ACTC may be the better organization to distribute.
Well, if they want to revisit that two supervisor issue, then yeah, maybe. That might be something we could consider. Even with that, they still have, the Board of Supervisors still has 2 votes. We each only have 1.
And they're gonna take the whole of all the tax revenue, all sales tax in all jurisdictions and then divvy it up accordingly, or how's that gonna be?
Based on population.
Yes, all the sales tax would go, and that'd be divvied out by the population.
Now, I know you discussed with removing the prison population, which, you know, I get that to some extent. It occurred to me, actually today, that at some point, you know, that prison population does have an effect on our streets. They travel our streets, they do have some wear and tear because of the prison. So while I know this is the agreement that you have at this point, and it was no easy task to get there, I would assume. I think what I would also like to see on the table is, at some point, looking at that prison population for us as a, you know, a 2 to 1, you know, half of the prison population or 3/4 of the prison population at the annual review. Because again, you know, the cars come through, people are using our streets to go to and from that prison. So it does have an effect on our streets. It's not just, you know, bodies in behind the gate. Has there, I know that this is preliminary, and the governing part of this is not been decided. It's part of the deal, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, there's been some discussion in terms of having ACTC, but no, we haven't got to that point yet. Like I said, this is the concept. There's more work that needs to be done.
Okay. Anybody?
I got a couple more, just 2 more quick things. So regarding the population versus the mileage of the road. So I worked out that some of the cities in the county vary between, let's say, so many people per mile of road.
Right.
I mean, did you look at that as well?
And
'Cause it varies.
that's one of the issues that came up when we started looking at road miles is, again, what's the density of the population? Because you can get into some very rural areas where the density is very low. And then you get into, you know, the more urban areas and then the population density is higher.
Yeah, because the county is about 50 people per mile of county road, and we're at 107 or something like that per mile of city road. So there was that. And then the other thing with the prison was, I have a little bit of a problem with the prisoner was being excluded because there is where, but did they count? They counted the county jail. Yeah, they didn't exclude the county jail.
They excluded the prison population
from here, but they didn't exclude it from the county, which is about 120 people. So you might go, well, what's the big deal? But it's like, well, it's funny how
Prisoners are prisoners, right?
it's funny how well it's always Mill Creek always gets excluded at every opportunity, but they don't exclude the county jail. And if they do the county jail expansion and it holds whatever 300 people, that's 300. You know, that we should at least be getting consideration.
Well, there's a
for
certain
that.
number of inmates that are residents as well too.
Right.
Legal residents of Andover County. Not most of them, but certainly there are some of them that are. For sure. At least we should do, at least the minimum would be the residents of Andover County, because people that are locally are going to visit them and whatever else, and hospital trips. And, 'cause there are some.
I don't know, the logistics on that might prove to be difficult.
Well, I know there's definitely some residents there for sure. There's not zero, I know that.
Right. Did they exclude the county too, or no?
Yes, they excluded the prison
They excluded
population.
They excluded the county prison?
Jail.
No, the Mill
The
Creek.
county, just Mule
Right,
Creek,
no,
right, yeah.
I didn't see that they excluded the county jail.
Yeah, I don't think they did.
No.
Nobody's ever brought that up.
And this agreed table that we have here, is it set in stone once we make this kind of a resolution? Is this the be-all, end-all for a year? Or dare you go back and revisit it?
You can try to revisit it, you may not get anywhere. That's where I'm going with that, because again, trying to get to this point was
Right,
difficult.
okay.
The other good thing is that, you know, Martell is the powerhouse of retail, and we'll be getting 0.5% of, you know, that'll go towards us if we spend out of the city of Ione. So that's, you know, the fact that they're doing it on population
Yeah.
is actually probably better than on the road.
I have a question, and I'm not sure, I don't know if you can even answer this. Is the county currently getting any kind of annual traffic mitigation fees or cost or funds from the new casino for road maintenance?
All those roads they built with the money from there, they're not.
Is it an ongoing, is there any ongoing
I'd
payments
have
being made
to
on them?
double check in terms of what the amount of revenues they get. I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay, because they're not part of ACTC,
I don't think they
and
are.
Rancheria is, but they are not, from what I saw, at least in the, who's paying what now.
But that was part of the agreement when they first, you know, like going years back, that they would build some new roads and they.
Which they did,
Right.
and that's fine.
I think it's an annual thing, but I'm not for sure. on that.
If the county is actually getting those funds as well, shouldn't those go into this fund as well? Because they're county, it's road money.
It's mitigation, so.
And I would be interested to see if they are getting it, what is the county's position on putting those funds into this fund as well?
Yeah, not to look on that.
I won't need 3 guesses.
I know. But, you know, again, it all's fair. I mean, we're putting in this X amount of dollars. If in fact the county is getting those funds, you know, they're county funds, why aren't we all sharing it?
Okay.
So I would like to know if there is ongoing fees being paid for roads by the casino, where is it going?
It's got that same argument of having local control, because the casino has very local control. I mean, they can pretty much say what streets they want to redo, so long as they have county agreement, which is what they've done. It's all been very local to the casino.
Well, but that was very local to the casino to get them open. I'm not sure that they're gonna be micromanaging those funds. I think they're gonna write a check and say, here you go, county, do what you will with the funds.
So, yeah, I
You
guess
know,
that's-
I mean, that would, I can't imagine they're gonna,
I had heard
Continue
that
that.
the casino would rather the money was spent closer than where it's getting spent. I know that we're gonna look at that, but, you know, the chairwoman did say that, you know, she anticipated more of it to be going locally, because right now, as you say, it all goes to the county, and the county decides where it goes from there.
right. So I think that's kind of a piece that was not necessarily brought into this equation that maybe needs to be, one way or another. Any other council? Okay, I'll go ahead and open it up to public comment.
I know it get kind of old, but I could say this, the last city manager didn't make it into meetings. You can ask any supervisor about that years ago, about the prison. And the woman, as she said, is interested in, somebody ought to talk to her. She's interested in making sure the money she figured was gonna go here, goes here, and it didn't. And for this half-cent sales tax, if you happen to look at SB1's money, this state, if you look it on the internet, they make about $54 million a day in gas tax. Where's all that money going? And how come SB1, the county and supervisors, all these little counties didn't go there and fight for it? They didn't do one damn thing, excuse my language, but that's the way I feel. And this, if you read it, this concept of it, they're gonna have this board, like you hit the nail on the head. There's 2 people on every board are from the supervisors. They got control of the board. And the way I read this thing, they're gonna get you guys a committee, all citizens, not even, I don't think council people's way, am I correct? And then it's gonna go to the board to make the final decision. So, exactly, you hit the nail on the head. It'll be just like Measure M money. Supervisor's got the final say, and that's the way it is, and it shouldn't be that way. Thank you. I think you guys ought to not back it till they make sure that stuff's changed. Thank you.
First of all, for being highly Ione-centric. I love that. Well, if we don't fight for us, nobody else is gonna, so thank you, Diane. My only question was, because I don't know the math, is there a dollar amount that would be bigger? In other words, should all of the Ione sales or sales taxes stay with Ione, or would we be better by population? I don't know what's the difference, but could be, whichever is the higher of the two figures, that's how much we get.
Definitely.
Would definitely
Yes.
bring us more, okay, thank you.
I mean, part of that is too, is like half of Calaveras County shops at Walmart and every place up there too, so. A lot of Calaveras folks shop in Martell,
Martell.
Lowe's, et cetera, a lot of them do.
We would pull dollars out of that,
Okay.
there.
A lot of this came about because of Martell. Yeah, because, yeah, the cities felt that the county owed the cities because they have all that revenue from Martell, and they're taking it all from all the other cities, so.
Hank DeBoer, West Marlette. From listening to this, all I can say is don't move too fast in this. There's just too many questions. A lot of them is covered, but I think you better do a lot of researching before you get too deep into this, because it seems like the little guy always gets screwed. I'm sorry for that. But take your time on this thing. I know you want to get it in there, but there's so many directions you should mention. There's so many different places that needs to be looked into, and they were all very legit. But I'd sure take my time before I pass anything real quick on this one. Thank you.
Mark Fressner, 111 East Main Street. Yeah, I'd like them to check into that prison population, because there's a lot of traffic that's generated by that prison. I mean, you got the prison guards that come and go, shift changes, that's our traffic jam. Visitors that come up, they use the roads all the time. So for them to just say, well, no, we're not going to count the prison population, that's kind of crappy on their part. So I'd like that to be revisited if we could. Thanks.
Any further public comment? Okay, closing public comment. Any further council discussion?
Well, I'd just like to clarify that this is just a concept. We're approving a concept, and then so that the committee knows that there's reason to move on and to hammer out the details. So this white paper is not.
Like I said, the resolution is to express interest to support the self-help. It's a concept. It's
Right.
still, I mean,
So we can still go to bat and work and fight for this.
and you know, again, every community could be supportive of it, and the county board of supervisors still say no.
Right. And it could go the other way around, because I know that we've had that discussion, that if the cities, like if we decide, okay, we like it in concept, but when they come out with the ballot measure, we say, no, we don't like it, and we're going to speak against it, they don't want that.
Right.
That's our negotiating position. That's where we have a little bit of weight, is that they want us to be behind this.
Right.
So.
What's the reasoning behind 10 years? I mean, 5 years would be a great test window. I think we'd figure it out pretty darn quick if in 5 years what was going on. 10 years, I mean, it's like you can't kill it. I mean, you're just, under its
It'll be
weight.
forgotten in 10 years.
Right, exactly, well, that's my point. I mean, it'll just sit there and, after 5 years, maybe SB1 gets their game together and actually gives us our due. I don't know. It's a lot backwards, I know.
No, they'll have a new train for that.
A little bit of vision. A dream at least, but I mean, is there some reason why 10 years is that number picked?
10 years seem to be most agreeable to everybody, because everybody has some projects that, they're not going to be able to afford in 1 year, so they may have to save a couple years in order to do the project. Okay. So again, if if it's just 5 years and you're saving 3 years to do a project, and everybody's going, well, we paid all this money, but don't see any projects. Right. So that's where, in terms of looking at something a little bit longer than 5 years. So
I think one thing would be useful for the council, and probably the citizenry, would be to look at like our CIP program or for the roadways. the capital improvement projects list and see what can be accomplished in year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. I mean, yeah, I think that's something we already have
And that,
available, but at least we would know what we're doing.
well, and that gets to be part of the marketing concept in terms of this project is, we know the next phase is, okay, we talk about X number of dollars. Okay, the public's gonna wanna know, what are the projects? Okay, that's part of the capital improvement, the list that each community is going to put together. And in terms of this is what we want to accomplish.
Because I think our plan could just show that these things will be moved up, from instead of 3 years to 1 year. I mean, it would show reflect what.
Right, but even our 2000, I mean, our CIP for streets is 2015, and it needs to be updated. So again, I mean, that's one of the projects that's on the list.
If this went forward and if it did pass, we could update it then, and then it would be, I guess that would be.
But also one of the things too, in terms of considering this, should it pass and how the money is being spent. I mean, if we're going to improve the streets, and there's a lot of sections of old part of Ione that needs to be improved, you want to tie that in with improving the water lines, the sewer lines, all of those things, so you're hitting it all at once.
I have one more thing, and I'm not sure it would be appropriate here. The administrative costs to run this kind of a program there's going to be some, I would assume.
I would assume so, yes.
There's going to be auditors that have to be
Right.
paid, there's going to be, some personnel that have to issue
Right.
checks and those kinds of things. Those funds are going to come directly out of these funds?
I would imagine, yes.
Okay. And is there some kind of is there a formula that's been developed for that purpose?
That hasn't been done yet. Again, that's the next step in terms of moving things forward. There's still a lot of work to do here.
Okay.
I think, like, for example, SB1, they withhold 2% out of the fund for admin.
Okay.
So I'm sure, like all the questions everyone has and all the ones we have, I mean, if that isn't sorted out before it goes on the ballot, then it'll never pass. So I'm confident that all of our concerns will be addressed.
Yeah.
Like probably, when they start doing the outreach, they're going to have to figure it out by then. Because that's one of the reasons I thought that the school bond failed, was that they didn't do any of ask any questions. They were just trying to get it on the ballot, and then at the 11th hour they started to tell you where all the money was going to be spent. By then it was 2 weeks. Everyone had voted by mail, and I thought it was too late. So
I move we accept the resolution 2020-01 to support the concept of self-help sales tax.
I'll second it.
We have a first, we have a second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed?
I got a quick question for John. So when will in order to get on the November ballot, what's the deadline for the supervisors? I mean, it's got to be within a couple of months, I would imagine.
Yeah, I believe so. I'm thinking May or June.
Yeah.
June.
So they're going to have to figure out all of this stuff before June.
I personally think that's too enterprising, I don't,
It's going to be, well,
because I hate to see it go the way the school bond went, because, for the same reason.
there's some
It
really
was
good
just-
people on this committee, so, they could probably get it done. Especially if Tom gets reassigned.
If they would meet when I'm available.
Yeah. Well, you know how I like to move through things. Okay, moving on. We have item number 4, acceptance of donation of $1,500 from City Manager John Hankin to purchase a TV for council chambers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to say, I mean, it was a donation, and the TV's up, and
Okay, I'm gonna open this to public comment because there is some public comment.
There is some public comment, and I'm just using the things that have been in front of me about this. This one really bothers me in this day and age of optics, but I guess I'm just curious about this. Has this ever been done before? Has a city manager of Ione ever donated something to the city before like that?
Absolutely. I've donated rifles to the police foundation. I've donated money to the Red Barn. I've made donations to
Well,
almost
that's
every
not to
org-
the city council.
Well, but it's the city.
Okay, so, and do those qualify? Does the city attorney agree that those are all same?
I just want to make it clear that in this particular situation, the council members themselves are not receiving the benefit. The city of Ione is receiving the benefit, so in that sense, it would be like the city of Ione Police Department receiving the rifle or the donation to the Red Barn in the benefit of the city. If they were receiving it personally, it would be a different discussion.
I understand that. I guess I don't see this, I don't see that it's not, I see that it's different things because he's an individual also that gets to donate to the Big Red Barn kind of a thing, but when you're the city manager and donating something to the city, that just seems different to me. And so one of my other questions is why is that being done now? Why are we doing that? And why are you asking them to accept your gift when you've already installed your gift? Why did you not need to ask first if you wanted it? Or did he?
No, this is the first time it's come before the council.
Like I said, it's just kind of caught me by surprise. I just thought, like I said, in this political day and age, it looks kind of funny. So this doesn't set any sort of a precedent for future something? Y'all look like I'm looking at me like I'm like from Mars.
I'm trying to figure out what you're afraid of.
He's donated
I'm
it
not
to the
afraid of
city.
anything. I'm just asking the question about it because it just seems.
Well,
I
you're
watch too much
asking
TV.
about the future, so what are you afraid is going to happen in the future?
Well, I don't know, but everything happens incrementally. I know enough about human nature to know that things happen incrementally, Mr. Reed, and so I don't know if that's a problem. I'm asking if it's a problem because there's an attorney here that can assure us that it's not a problem for a city manager to donate to his city council an expensive item.
I would.
It's not to the city council, it's to the city. It says,
And that's the
it
fine
says the
difference.
chambers, it doesn't say he's donating it
Okay.
to us.
So this will be used by the planning commission, this will be used by the budget commission. Any training program that the police department does for Citizens Academy, it's used by them.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's better than the projector that we've been using.
Lori, I think the council is very well aware of what you are actually saying in there and whether or not it's going to create a bias with regards to any negotiations in the future with a contract or anything like that, which is again why it is on open session for public comment and for the council to weigh in on that. That's why when we accept donations from the Red Barn to the police department, that's why those are on for public comment as well. When we accept donations, we have to have it out there for the public. I tend to agree with you. It probably shouldn't have been up before they officially accepted it, but we can deal with that in the future. But I think the council is very well aware of what you are saying, and if they were personally receiving this gift, it would be something we would not recommend that they accept. As it is, it's in their discretion to accept or deny it at this point with the public's comment.
I appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
I would agree with Sophia. I think that it probably should have come to us first, then it should have been hung in chambers. Assuming we agree to accept it. Any other council discussion? I'll close public comment. No other further council?
I'd just say that if it donated the TV to Evelyn Bishop Hall, for example, right? Or if he donated dirt to the horse arena, it's going to the city. It's not going, I can see a little bit where Lori's coming from, but it's just like, if I don't see any difference, I don't see a conflict. I need $1,500 is, I think that the city should have budgeted for something like that instead of someone donating it. I would rather someone donated it to like a park or something like that, where more people get to see it other than the committees. But it's a donation. It's a donation, so people can donate wherever they want. So.
And what is the rules there? Like council donates stuff, the staff donates stuff, elected officials. Is there rules there, or is it? I appreciate it.
I donated to the.
That's what I'm asking.
mean,
That's
I've
not something we normally
donated.
come across, I mean,
There are all sorts of rules with regards to receiving donations.
receiving donations, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Personal, especially.
Absolutely, and that's why you file your Form 700s every single year
Right.
and disclose anything that you have received over that dollar amount that changes.
Right.
But again, in this particular instance, it's the equivalent of a member of the public giving you something. You can accept it or not. I think the concern here is that the public is also aware that we've had a number of things on the agenda over the last 3 agendas. We also are all aware of contracts that are coming due, and they want to make sure that the city is not receiving this gift on behalf of the city in any kind of sideways way to benefit John. If that is the case, and there is any bias established by the receipt of this particular donation, then I would suggest you reject it, because you can't have that. I don't think that there is, but if there is on any one of your parts, then you should consider that. That's where the issue is going to come up, is whether or not you are going to have been seen as receiving this as a benefit to you personally, which then John can get a benefit from your good graces in a contract negotiation or something in the future. And I think that's what the public is saying.
Right, and I think
I mean,
that
I was
was,
sitting
Lori
down
was
there
trying to
when-
graciously say those, that.
If I sat farther down, had a better angle maybe, but not down here.
Again,
Yeah.
I don't think that's where John was coming from. I
No.
don't think that's where the council is,
No,
but
no,
I
okay.
do think that you have to allow the public that
Yeah,
opportunity to
I'm
comment
not
on
gonna
it.
be influenced by somebody giving you, like, giving the
Exactly.
city some gift.
The primary reason is I'm gonna take a big hit on capital gains with my taxes on the house I sold in Arizona.
There you go.
I needed a deduction.
There you go. Well, that's fine. I mean, also too, it's TV's on sale, it's a time thing. I don't know what $1,500 TV later in my house and, fall over something, so.
Any other further
Nope.
council comment? Okay, so what is it that we are being asked to do with this? Just accept the gift and say, or not accept the gift and?
We need a motion to accept the donation of the $1,500, which went
I
towards the purchase of the TV.
will entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
Does it have Netflix? Just thought I'd lighten the room up a little bit, sorry about that.
And moving on to item number 5, committee assignments. I have gone ahead and left the committee assignments as is, with one exception. Stacy asked to be removed as the primary on the tourism committee, and Tom has graciously agreed to take the primary, with Stacy now being the alternate. Other than that, that is the only change to the committees that will be made. There is, Janice provided last year's, yeah, that do I need to draw one up? And
I would suggest that either you or Janice make sure we have one and make sure it's posted
Okay.
after this meeting and after it's confirmed by your fellow council members.
Okay. Now I need to ask for a motion to approve the,
Cover public hearing first.
oh yes. Public comment on the committee assignments? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment.
I'll make a motion to accept the committee assignments from Mayor Ratton for 2020.
A second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on. City manager reports.
Yeah, a couple things. Just wanted to update you in terms of the surplus property. Had a preliminary meeting with the Amateur Water Agency related to annexing Parcel C into their Community Facilities District for the water line on Shakely. Also, we're discussing coordinating the line replacements, water lines and sewer lines in Ione, and I'll be meeting with their new general manager here in a couple of weeks. Also on the tennis court, basketball court, had an opportunity to meet with somebody from, a representative from All Sports America. And we did some preliminary staking out of the proposed location. It's about 110 by 120 feet. As we're kind of going through the process, we're going to need to be looking at the the mitigated negative declaration statement that was done for the park in 2010. One of the things that I'm finding is that the declaration statement does not include some of the items that were listed in the 2005 Nexus study for the Howard Park improvements. I think that's an oversight, simply because the mitigation fee was 2005. The revision to the, or the update to the park master plan in 2010. But the map, in terms of that sitting right there, that was done in 1996 or 97, does show the tennis courts, does show those amenities that are listed in the Nexus study. So like I said, I think it was just an oversight, working with our planner to kind of correct that. But we'll have to go through land use process. It'll also need to go through the Parks Committee, because one of the things that, you know, as I update, as we start looking at this, where we have it staked out for potential, there's probably going to be the need to remove 25 to 30 trees. And again, that will require a land use process.
Where's the location at?
The location is just a little bit to the south of Evelyn Bishop Hall. There is a kind of a, you know, where the two, I should have had a photo here, where the two roads fork off, and there's a little driveway area. If you go to that area, you'll see a green string that tied to two stakes. That's the front entrance, or the front area. And then you will see stakes about 110, 120 feet back that have blue caps or blue paint on top of them. That's the general layout of the facility. It fits within the general area that was identified as a spot for the tennis courts on that map there. We try to keep that as close as possible. I will admit it, you know, when you lay out 110 by 120, a little bit bigger than what I thought.
Is that a two court?
Two courts, 4 basketball hoops. Hopefully, we can get the project done by July. There'll be removing of the trees and clearing the vegetation off and doing some cut and fill. Then with the Ione homecoming coming up, we'll need to stop for that time period, and then after homecoming is done, start with the construction in terms of the concrete base and that. I don't want to do that before homecoming.
You don't see any hangups with the Nexus study and the
I don't, no, I don't, because like I said, if you look at, you know, what we have here, or what was on the 2005 Nexus study, I mean, it's all there. It just, for whatever reason, wasn't incorporated into the list of activities to be done.
Anything else? Any further?
No, that's...
Do I take city comment? Public comment on? No, okay. City Council Committee reports?
None. I've got a couple. One is ARSA tomorrow. I will not be able to make it. I'm heading to League of Cities for the next 3 days. So if somebody would like to fill in for me, basically we just give them a little update and or just listen on the meeting. That's kind of it. The agenda's not real rich, but if there's one of our councilmen that can make it, that'd be great. Okay, well, I guess it's full.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. All right, I thought I'd bring it up. But then else, I did have the CDCR Citizen Action Committee. I went to that last Tuesday. Couple things there. One is that they've increased their college enrollment and their programs. If you have been following in the news, they're trying to do everything they can to get the inmates educated or trained so that when they get out, the ones especially that are termed to be released, to get things going. They had 412 classes / students, which means that can be one student taking multiple classes, but there was 412 classroom persons there. I guess how you state that was the most technical term for that. It's e-facilities. It's with Folsom Lake College Leadership Committee, and then it's called Creekside Adult School. If you see it around at all, it's called Creekside Adult School. That's what the name of the college is there. What they call it there. They actually have a person that's hired, full-time staff person that is there fully involved in trying to get as many inmates enrolled and classes taken, et cetera, and then broaden some of the training base. Some other job opportunities, they are looking for a welding instructor for the welding shop. If you have not seen the welding shop, it's actually very, very nice. It's like if you know what a MIG welder is, they got a top of the line military, a whole bunch of them out there. They got hoods and equipment and everything else, but looking for somebody to instruct. They're also looking for an office assistant, so if anybody else is interested in that position, hiring for that. The wastewater, no major update, except for the little piece of paper we got. They hadn't seen that yet. The small response, they maintain that they're not illegally dumping water, which that's a technical term too, which you can dump water legally. May not be beneficial, but as long as it's legal, that's their maintained statement there. The toy drive, they're very successful. They had a really good turnout for that. You saw at the parade, Christmas parade, a lot of toys there donated by the staff and folks that are there. What's called the CRM, it's a food drive they do. They donate to a group each month. They have a food truck goes out there, the inmates pay, and the money that's generated, part of that process. So they donated to Chicks in Crisis, based out of Jackson, Victor Village, and they've agreed to donate to the Ione Homecoming Picnic Association, the IPA, so they'll be donating to that again this year as a part of that donating process. Let's see what else. They are having the golf tournament again this year. That's coming up, I believe. The population right now is at 4,009, relatively stable. It's been up and down from 4,005 to, I don't know, 4,015, somewhere in the neighborhood. They also have expanded their dog training programs. They take in shelter animals and train them and get them suited for adoption, and it's called Paws for Life. If you know Natalie Portman, I think so, who was an actress, she apparently donated a dog out of the program. I thought that was kind of interesting.
I've actually looked at them.
And yeah, and if you want to look into their dogs, just look up on the website. They also train service dogs too there, and I was asking about that. Because basically what they do is they have trainers that come in, teach the inmates how to train dogs for service, and then they take the dogs into service. This is for anything from diabetes to a dozen other things they use them for, but they train them there and then they send them out, so at least they're doing something productive. So that's my report from the CCR Citizens Action Committee.
Well, AFPA was postponed because we don't have a clerk, and so the notices didn't get put up in time, so that'll be at the end of the month instead. I did go to the Air District Board today. We elected new officers. I ended up as the vice chair.
Lucky you.
Yeah, lucky me. We got updates on various things that, we're always talking about the pine needle bins up country. We had to pull them out last year because all the residents love them, and Air Board loves it because we keep people from putting all that smoke into the air, but they're unattended. And so we've been having a lot of trouble with people putting stuff in there that shouldn't go in there. And so we had to pull them out. Now they want to figure out a way to get them back. And so that's always a discussion item. I had to leave before they discussed the wood stove, but we have that wood stove project back again this year. I think I mentioned that at the last meeting, so we're going ahead with that. They were talking about the county, just like we had an outdated diesel. What did we have? It was a lawnmower. What do we have?
We had a generator. We had
a generator, yeah. But anyway, we have a program. The Air District has a program to replace outdated, what they call Tier 1s. They're all now outdated, and I think 2 or 3 years Tier 2 will be outdated. And so there's a lot of entities that are looking for help in replacing some of their outdated diesel engines, basically. And they can't be, street things. They can't be like trucks or cars. It has to be other things. And the county wants help in buying a new chipper. And so it was interesting. The discussion kind of went sideways into a discussion about, as you talked about the slash out at Howard Park, discussion about do we really want to spend this much money for one entity to have a chipper that doesn't get used all the time. And so then they started talking about, well, what if the other municipalities and the and the county could use this chipper in some way. It presents a lot of problems as far as liability and maintenance and, you know, that kind of thing, but they're gonna look into that. So it may be possible in the future that when we have a big project that we need, you know, a big industrial chipper for, that we could probably borrow it, so.
Okay, and that's committee reports. City council, future agenda items?
Yeah, I'd like to get on the agenda to look at the property tax split. What I would like to see happen in the future is that instead of us getting about 1%, we get a little bit more. I
You mean
think.
with the county?
Yeah,
County
with the
split?
county, sure. And that would be, you know, hopefully take this up with all of the cities like they're doing in the road thing. So I think, first of all, we got to discuss it. Is that, you know, is that something we want? Do we want more money or do we not?
Or our own money? I don't know.
And that would be on, you know, new development. So it wouldn't be retroactive. It would be whenever it comes in, new development going forward. And that would have to be basically negotiated with the county to get that on a ballot and change Prop 13 or whatever is never going to happen. But so what we need is, there are opportunities when you, first of all, annex in property to work out the tax split. And then there's another one as well. I think when you plan to develop it, so first of all, annexation, maybe even sphere of influence before that. But there's a couple of opportunities to do that. And usually what happens is the county just says, we want what we're getting now, take it or leave it, and everybody always takes it. So hopefully the county is a little bit more receptive to change going forward. And second item is look at the fees. I think that's kind of outrageous what we're charging for a sign. That's not even the sign, that's just the fee. So I'd like to revisit the fees, even if it's just for the sign, because I remember how many times we discussed how many meetings we had over the fees. I don't want to revisit all of the fees. I think what we said at the time was if there's a problem, then bring it to our attention and we'll try and fix it. Right. So that one looks like it's a problem, so we need to look at that. And then third thing would be, like, I don't know, how do we get sales tax from the prison here? Because I know they sell coffee all over the place, and I don't know what they do with the meat. They sell it to other prisons or they give it to our prisons. But I know that we had this discussion on sales tax when they were doing the expansion out there. But I mean, if they're selling coffee to wherever it's going, or meat or whatever else, or license plates or whatever it is they do, then I'm sure the state's got a little clause in there somewhere where everything comes out of state facility goes to the state. But I'd like to find out if that's the case, or is there any way we can, and maybe we can negotiate with the state and say, hey, how about kicking us a little bit of your sales tax?
Do they actually sell it to the other entities, or do they provide it?
Well, I know they do sell it to some. Well, any public agency can buy coffee from the prison.
Okay.
The prison itself, like the office, they are very clear about the division. I mean, they'll buy their own coffee because they're giving a rough time about having Starbucks in there. And they're like, well, hey, we can't buy it from the prison because it's a conflict of interest, so that kind of thing. But they do also make they make a lot of the fire retardant equipment like we just got for our firefighters. A lot of that stuff is made right there in the prison.
Okay.
And they process most of the meat for the prison system in California, and probably a few other little things, but it's all government agencies that the products go to. I'm not sure how the sales tax works on that.
Yeah, I bet there's a healthy sum of sales tax there going.
Yeah, they're doing it for a good reason. They're making money. So.
That's all I got.
Yeah, I don't know anything right now.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna mention the sign, but Dominic.
Okay, me too. I don't have anything at this point, so I will entertain a,
Public comment on
public comment, sorry. I was
on the closed
on
session.
the closed session. I mean, on the
Yeah.
future agenda.
Only on
Oh,
the
can
future
we have a
agenda?
closed session?
On closed session only.
Closed session only, sorry.
Okay, well, to be quite frank, I'm new to this, so I may be doing it wrong.
You and me both.
So bear with me, okay? I'm trying. Just a couple quick things on, I wanted to ask you just a few questions on the tennis and basketball court. Is that okay? Is that part of the
Actually,
closed
the,
session?
yeah, the tennis and basketball court is part of the city manager's report, and it's not open to public
Okay.
comment. We're happy to talk to you
My only
individually
concern
afterwards.
was, is it gonna interfere with scheduling of Evelyn Bishop Hall where people have events? As you guys know, Hook had an event, so
Yeah.
we're gonna do it again. I didn't want that to interfere, that's all.
John,
And John can
get
always.
together with John.
We'll just talk about that later.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
You can always talk to John about things like that.
Okay, and then, the next thing that I wanted to ask about, because I forgot earlier, is, speaking with the Little League, they were asking about the Little League baseball fields out there. Is that something I can bring up real quick to you guys? Or is that another time?
We can't discuss anything that is not on our agenda.
Okay,
So if.
well then,
And if it's
I'm
a.
standing here for no reason.
And I'll. And if you have something, you can also take that to Parks and Recs. That may be a good starting point for
Okay,
you. I don't know what it is,
Okay,
so.
it was just about lights and fixing the fields and creating a revenue for the city.
Oh, definitely talk to Parks and
Parks and
Recreation.
Recs then. I would definitely go to the Parks
Gets
and
to
Recs.
go through them before it comes to us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. You're gonna talk about the closed session?
Yes.
Okay.
I was told that I can speak about the closed session.
Yes, you.
And I want to express my opinion about, you guys ought to look at PERC and Coastline Engineering. They could have cost the city a fortune because of the transite pipe they didn't know about, which I'm certain PERC know about. If you happen to look at LA County, there's a city there now that contracted out to tear a building down. They found 2 rooms that had asbestos in it and they didn't notify them. It's like $20 million lawsuit right now. Just look at it.
Okay. No further public comment on closed session? Okay, I'm closing public comment and we are moving to the closed session.